What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the CrazyFaceUno Podcast. Just a reminder, CrazyFaceUno is inspiring others to do good and make a difference in our local and global community. And it's my honor and privilege to introduce you to my guest today, the one, the only, Talitha Baker. How's it going, Talitha?
Hi. I there used to be another Talitha Baker, but she got married, so I am the one and the only.
There you go. You're the one and the only in my book, so. I'm really excited to have you on. I'm excited to catch up on life with you. Like so many of my guests so far, we first met and kind of got to know each other a little bit at Invisible Children.
Yes, good times. We really grew up there.
Yeah, we did, right? And so much since. There's been so much time that's passed. You are, like, legitimately, I was telling my wife before we got going, like, some of the things that you were doing, and I was looking at, the websites of some of the stuff you were doing, and I was like, she's just crushing it. Like, she's killing it. And she was like, yeah, that's really cool. Like, those are really cool things she's doing. Let's start off Dressember.
Yes.
I wrote down kind of like the little mission statement off the website. It says, equips a community of advocates to fight for the dignity of all people, leading to the protection and freedom of millions. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. So Dressember is an organization I serve as the board chair. So It's something that I do in a volunteer capacity, but it takes up a lot of time and a lot of heart space. So I love it.
Yeah. And something I really love, and I've noted, or I read on the website as well, were like kind of the three pieces, of like what you guys are doing with Dressember, which is prevention, rescue, and holistic aftercare.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to dive into those a little bit and talk to us about like what those mean to Dressember and kind of like what that means for each of those different categories?
Yeah, definitely. So for those of you who are not familiar with Dressember, the pun, the concept is that in the month of December, you dress up every day in a dress or tie, or both, if you're feeling zealous.
Nice.
And you post pictures online. You let your community know, I'm wearing this wardrobe because I care about the issue of human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
And then you invite your community to donate to the cause. So this nonprofit organization has existed since 2014. 2013 was the first year that there was a charitable component, but it was after we raised a lot of money the first year, we realized, let's become an actual nonprofit.
Yeah.
So every year it's something that tens of thousands of people participate in, and it's raised, I believe the current total is over $7 million and
wow,
counting,
awesome.
To fund human trafficking initiatives. So the 3 points that you just referenced, what we do, we're a foundation and we grant out that money.
Yeah.
So for listeners, if they're, involved with a human trafficking organization and they would like to be a recipient of some of that money, you can apply to receive a grant. And then we choose grantees who are preventing, who are on the front lines of rescuing, and who are providing aftercare, and we do that globally and also all across the United States.
That's so cool. Yeah, I saw that one of the partners was IJM, who I think they're doing great work. They're really doing some awesome stuff, and I think that's really cool. And I actually worked for one of their events with Susanna about a year ago, and yeah, it was really cool to kind of learn a little bit more about them, just being in that environment and being around their staff, and that was really cool. And I love the idea. I love, like, it's such a easy thing to do, to have a big impact.
Well, yeah, the founder and CEO, Blythe Hill, she's one of my best friends, but she always says, you have to get dressed every day.
Right.
So it really couldn't be any easier. But it is a challenge. I mean, I live
Yeah,
in
sure.
Phoenix, so it's not too bad in December, but you know, for people who are wearing a dress or other seasonably inappropriate clothing in the month of
Yeah,
December, it is a challenge to a degree, but also
sure.
it's really fun to get creative of like, how can I take this, you know, uniform, an abolitionist uniform,
Yeah.
basically. How can I make it so that I'm not freezing to death while I'm at it? So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like you said,
yeah.
it's everybody. You got to get dressed during the day. You got to get bundled up and whatever. But yeah, it's I don't know. I think it's just such a simple idea that it doesn't take. It doesn't really change your life much. You know, again, like you have to get dressed. You have to put clothes on every day to go to work and do whatever you do. So why not wear a dress while you do it? And it makes people ask questions, and it's just an easy conversation starter. It's not like totally in your face, but it's enough to be like, hey, I've noticed you've worn a dress every day this month. You know?
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have some people, and this is not certainly not a requirement, but we do have some people who will wear the same dress every day,
Ooh, that's
and they embark on the style
yeah.
challenge of like, how do I make this look different so I
That's cool.
don't look crazy wearing the same thing every day.
Yeah, that's cool. It sounds like so your best friend or good friend is the CEO and founder. So is that how you got involved?
Yeah, so I moved to LA in 2013 after I finished up at Invisible Children,
Yeah.
and I met Blythe. She was living with a few of my dear friends, also from the Invisible Children family. So she was actually one of the first people I met when I moved to LA, and we just clicked.
Yeah,
And I would definitely say she's my best friend in LA.
that's cool.
She's a real powerhouse. Really cool the way our paths crossed.
Yeah, and you've got such a brilliant mind, and I mean, from my experience with you working at Invisible Children and being the tour and booking manager there, I mean, you your mind operates different than other people in such a good way, you know?
I don't know. Thank you.
Take it as a compliment. It's great. I really think that's
Thank
true.
you.
I think you're a very brilliant woman, and I think they're lucky to have you on their chair as a on their board. So I think that's awesome. You also are involved with the Children's Miracle Network hospitals.
Yeah, so that's my day job.
Cool.
So I work for Children's Miracle Network hospitals, specifically in a department or a campaign called Extra Life.
Okay.
So we are Children's Miracle Network Hospitals is it's a fundraising arm for 170 children's hospitals across North America. So basically, not every, but many children's hospitals will say, I want to be a part of that community.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do, then they get access to, I believe, well, I don't know the exact number, but they get access to millions and millions and millions of dollars that we're able to help them fundraise. So a lot of it is kind of traditional things like, for example, if you go to Walmart, when they're doing fundraising, they will ask you, would you like to round up or make a $1 donation for Nicholas Children's Hospital, which would be the one closest to you. So that's where a lot of that money is coming from. But being on this Extra Life campaign, we are innovating basically it's called peer-to-peer fundraising, which is also what Dressember is. It's also what we were doing at Invisible Children, at campaigns like November.
Yeah.
So you can sign up to fundraise for your local children's hospital, and you do that by committing to games. So video games, tabletop board games. You make a commitment to play games to heal kids.
Okay. That's awesome. That's really cool. And where do people go to sign up for that and to get involved? Where do I go to get involved with that and sign up? That sounds like something that I want to do.
Well, I'm not surprised it sounds like something you want to do because it's awesome. No, but it's something I really love about it is that we are inviting millennial males, into the fundraising equation.
Yeah.
And, you know, our history in the nonprofit space is tends to be a female-driven community. And, of course, women will play video games as well. But I've just been so inspired to see huge groups of young men say, this is the way I want to give back to the world.
Yeah.
So men, women, whoever's listening, if they're interested, they can go to extra-life.org, sign up, set up a fundraising page, and then if you stream your gaming on Twitch or YouTube or Mixer, or even if you don't stream it, you can just invite your community to support you as you do something you're passionate about, but you get to do it to help kids in your local children's hospital.
That's so cool. Let's dive into that. You made a really interesting comment, and I completely agree with you. And we saw it at Invisible Children for sure, that there's just fewer men involved with different causes and organizations that are doing good in the world. I don't know what else other way to say it necessarily, but what do you think are some of the reasons that men are not involved with that? With those different...
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just kind of rambling, to be completely honest. I'm trying to externally process this idea or this thought, I guess, in some ways. So go ahead.
I mean, I have some theories, which I'll talk about, but then I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
So, I think that a lot of the way our society works, it teaches men that, your focus needs to be on providing for your family. You're only valuable. A woman will only want to date you if you are a provider, if you have a successful career.
Yeah.
And the problem in the nonprofit sector is that it really does slow down that process of, buying a house or making a good living. And certainly it's possible to do that. But I think that men face so much cultural pressure to have to hurry up and get a good job, that can prevent them from entering the space. I don't know, it tends to be a more tender community, and maybe men feel worried to enter that. But, you're a bit of a unicorn being a man who has given his heart to the nonprofit space.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know, what your opinion is on why is it more challenging to get guys involved.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head for sure. I mean, I can speak firsthand that some of these things, and if you've been listening to the podcast, you've heard me talk about this quite a bit, and it's a conversation I've had with several of my friends as well, that are men, and I have this really fun and amazing group of friends from college that I feel like we're all have this heart to serve and to help other people, and I think that society puts a lot of pressures. Looking at my family currently, which is my wife and I, and I'm not going to leave out my little dog. And yes, it's not a child, but we treat him like one, and he's spoiled, and we love him. Shout out to Chancey Poo. But yeah, my wife right now, she's killing it. She's the breadwinner of our family. She's the one that, we own our home in Minnesota still, and we're renting that out, but she's the one that bought our home there. And so we joke around about it all the time, but complete role reversals for us. And, I'm fine with that. Right. But I also have a very, strong desire to be a provider, and it's really, really hard for me to accept help, just in general. And I don't think that's just a male trait, but I think it's a male dominated thing, trait in some ways. Yeah. I definitely see that. I think that there's a societal pressure for sure to, be successful. And I think that looks what that means in like American society, at least, is the job, the car, the house, the things, the status. And in order to get those things and kind of feel, quote, fulfilled, I think that's what you see, I think that men are also, kind of speaking to the games and playing and, that kind of idea. I think not that women aren't competitive, that don't misunderstand what I'm saying, but it's something that's real. Men are generally very competitive. And, I think that there's this competition and this like cutthroatness that comes out in men, that's accepted, in society as well, where we hear a lot of the this is a really roundabout way to answer your question, so sorry, but even with women, how there's these different views of women that are in leadership and that are strong and independent, and I don't think those are fair. They exist for sure. But I also think that there is, and whether it's just society over time that's developed this or that's created this culture, I think women are generally, I think there's some evolutionary things too, but, they come out more as empathetic and caring and loving and nurturing. And I think that it exists in men. I just think that it's something that's not necessarily socially acceptable to come out. And the same with the opposite with women, and maybe it's women in the workplace or whatever you want to put, that conversation. And so there's these conflicting social pressures that have evolved over time that have created this culture, I think, within, at least in the United States, Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of those things, I don't think that they're fair either way. I think that it's starting to change, but it's really slow. It's just a really slow process. But I think that society's pushing back and we're challenging those social norms and those ideas. And I think it's really good, and I think it's healthy. And I think that I say this a lot, but I think that time is on our side with so many different things. We need those extremes to kind of push the idea forward, and then we can have those conversations. That progress happens right in the middle, and we just slowly make adjustments and move that pendulum. But I think, to answer your question, I think it is. I think it's exactly what you said. It's the social, cultural pressures and just kind of what some of those different things that we see in men more often, and it's just not as, quote, socially acceptable, and maybe some men are afraid to kind of show that side of themselves, of fear of seeing it as a weakness.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's, part of the way that we're culturally raising men and women differently.
Yeah.
What is really cool about why the thing with Extra Life is we're actively trying to get more women involved, which is great. It's just funny because it's like every other nonprofit I've been a part of is actively trying to get more men involved.
Yeah.
But the way we position ourselves is, be a hero. Like your incredible gaming skills will be celebrated. All these people will tune in to watch you show off your skills. You get to be a hero, and then you get to help these kids heal.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there was any intentionality in the way that was built, but I think that it just organically really speaks well to the psyche of what a guy wants to be. He wants to be, and again, I'm speaking broadly, but
yeah, of course.
He wants to be a hero. He wants to be celebrated for the way he can contribute. I think that that's pushing the same button as what you were sharing, is like, you want to be a provider, I think it's the same. It's like scratching that same itch. And so in the charity landscape, I think that, it's really all about how you position yourself and how you craft your messaging.
Mm-hmm.
That will really dictate who's going to be interested in your support and supporting you.
Yeah.
The age, the gender, the, perhaps religious affiliation,
right.
All of that stuff will follow simple things like the way that you make your tagline or the way you name your organization. So I've loved learning about like why this is working.
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
fascinating
absolutely. Well,
thing to be a part of.
I love the idea of hero too, because yes, I think it appeals to, and I think males, your stereotypical male, can be a part of something that is thought of as, quote, being a hero, but it's not excluding, women. It's not excluding. It's sexually ambiguous term,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's inviting to all groups of people, which is unique in some ways because of, like, just what you were saying, messaging in general. Words have power, unfortunately, sometimes more than we want them to. And one thing too, and I think that kind of plays a part, and I've had a couple conversations with my friends from college this last summer when we all got back together. If you're listening and you haven't checked out the Bethel Boys series, it's pretty fun. There's some really amazing guys that I had the opportunity to interview and kind of talk with and reconnect with this last summer. It had been about 9 years since we had talked, which was sad, and it took the death of one of our friends and within that group, death by suicide, and it took that to really open our eyes and wake us up to, like, hey, we need to keep each other close and cherish those relationships. But we were having this conversation, and one of the gentlemen has spent a lot of time in South America, Argentina, just traveling in general. He spent a lot of the 9 years that we were apart in another country, and coming back to the United States and kind of like resettling in. And he brought up the question, is like, we in America, there's so much pressure, there's so much power put on the career or what your job is. It's the number one thing we talk. It's how I introduced you. It's how we started this conversation of like, hey, you're involved with this, and I try to be really conscious of that, but it's just part of who we are here in our society, and that pressure to, like, status equals your job and what you do, and I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I think many people relate to, having been in the season of looking for work, transitioning jobs, and feeling like, what do I even say? Where's my value? Perhaps, they left that job. Maybe they were told to leave that job.
Yeah.
To leave that job. And so you can really flail, because it's like my whole identity was, my career. It's what I talked about at cocktail parties or whatever. Now I'm unemployed. Like, what do I even talk about? So, yeah, I've got some friends in LA. I think this is happening other places too, but there's one in particular called Ampersand, if you are in LA, where you go to dinners and you're not allowed to say what you do. So the dinners are curated, and the people around the table do really interesting things, but you have to connect on other things, just common interests or where you're from, or whatever that might be. And then at the end of the dinner, you get to reveal what your career is, and then you get to make, oh, okay, cool. Well, we started first as friends, and now I see how our careers could be complementary, and we can network now. So it's really nice to, like, flip that on its head. But, one thing I try to do is I'll say, if I'm meeting someone new, I'll say, like, what's your world like? And most of the times they'll say, I work in business, or I work in finance, or I'm a teacher. But I'm not asking, what do you do? It's actually what they're hearing. So sometimes they'll say, I love doing art, or I'm really passionate about skiing, or whatever it is. So I'm trying to kind of flip that a little bit, but it's very ingrained in our culture.
Yeah, but perspective is everything too, and I think we have this, like, we think through the perspective of our job sometimes, and especially, I just had this thought just now, so this is again externally processing in some ways, but the idea that, there's a big push, I think, too, and I think I agree with it, and and I would love your thoughts on this as well, but that, you know, do what you love, and like what are the things you care about, and like that's where you should like put your energy and your time. And so there's this push, or this is something that's like a hot topic right now, or like a trendy thing to say and do. And, you know, we encourage young people to like follow your dreams and do these different things through that lens. And so, you know, when you ask like that, what is your world like? It's very much like, well, that's my world, because in some ways, maybe that is what they do care about, but it's more than that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's tough because do what you're passionate about, do what you love. Perspective. I kind of think the problem with that is that it might ruin what you love. Right. Once you start to see how the sausage is made, you're like, oh, do I really want that? Takes the joy out of what was my hobby and the thing I love.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that has been another topic that's came up a lot, and something that I like a little bit better than like do what you love and do it that, but it's like life on purpose and live your life on purpose. And I guess in so many ways, that's really what I'm trying to do with CrazyFaceUno, and me stepping out and doing this and having the opportunity, obviously, because my wife is, you know, killing it and crushing it as well. But I really like when you're living life on purpose, the things that you need and want kind of fall in line. And, you know, I talked about it with several of my different podcast guests, you know, just how when they felt like they're kind of floundering in some ways, that once they finally got kind of like followed their purpose and followed their purpose is tough. That's not what I mean. When their life was like in a direction of purpose, with what they want to do, or what their like life goals are, and they're like living that life on purpose, that they found much more happiness, and happiness came, the money came, and these different things. And it's something that I'm holding true and kind of holding close to my heart as I, you know, chase this dream and this ambition of mine, with CrazyFaceUno, is I want to live my life on purpose. I've always cared about doing good. And as I look at your kind of resume of things you've done, it's also something you've done, is like helping others and doing good, and these empathetic causes and these nonprofits and this world. Do you feel like you're living life on purpose?
I do. Yeah, I feel, I agree that like it's a really annoying thing to be like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Those types of questions, because, you know, I would have never answered them with where I've ended up, and yet I'm very happy with the path that life has taken me on.
Same.
I think that, I read a book, I can't remember what it was called. I'll have to let you know, and maybe put it in the show notes or something. But it was all about being a wayfinder of your career. So, like, you are literally charting uncharted territory. Like, of course, everything in the world has been discovered. It's not like you can get on a ship and, you know, go discover a new continent. Yeah. But you can do that theoretically with chasing your purpose. Whatever your purpose is, you know, with new technology coming out, and culture changing so much, like, Shane, I think probably 10 years ago, if you told me you wanted to do a podcast, I'd be like, what's a podcast? Right. You know? Yeah,
totally. I would have too.
Same thing for me. Like, if I told you I want to do fundraising through Instagram or through Twitch, you'd be like, what are those things?
Exactly.
So it's more about like having that North Star and having that compass of like what guides your heart, and then you actually get to find uncharted territory. Yeah. Which I think is, for me, very exciting. I'm someone who doesn't like using GPS, so that hit me. I was like, I'm gonna go discover things.
Well, and like purpose is such a like it's a word. I think to say you can find purpose is a little naive and untrue. But I think to seek purpose, to always seek and always have that, like you said, North Star. You're never going to reach the North Star. But you can walk in that direction, you know, and you can run in that direction or drive in that direction or whatever, you know. And I think that it's important to know that as well, you know?
Yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, otherwise you're just driving in circles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
frustrating. A frustrating way to live.
Yeah. And even like we were talking before we got going, I really want, you know, this whole Crazy Face Uno thing started honestly, and I'm assuming you will probably know this name. Not many people have. MrBeast.
MrBeast?
Yeah, the YouTube star. Do you know him?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I mean,
being in the Twitch world.
Embarrassing, but
it's okay.
There's so many of them.
I know. Being in the Twitch world, I thought maybe, because I don't know how much he's involved in that, but he's donated a lot of money through Twitch. Okay. And his different things.
I'm gonna look him up after this.
Yeah, he's just a YouTube, you know, star guy that he gives a lot of his money away. Like he gets these sponsors. He's like, hey, you know, Quib, I think was one. Like he's got this sponsor. Hey, can I have $10,000? And then he uses that money to make a video, or you know, and some of the videos are just simply, hey, I bought this house, and the people that work for him, like his friends that work for him, they had like their hand on the house. The last person to take their hand off the house, you know, gets to live there for a year rent free. And so I found it really interesting that, one, I love giving away, right? If I had one thing that I want to say, like, oh, Crazy Face Uno is, you know, in the future, 10 years from now, I look at it and go, yeah, he's doing what he said he wanted to do. I love making people's day. I've talked about it on here a ton too, but like the Americans Got Talent, you watch these people come onto the show, you know, they've worked their asses off for so long. Mm-hmm. Probably doing jobs, you know, that they don't really love, but they also love music. They love to sing. They love, you know, this, whatever their talent is. And they've worked really hard to get there. And this is their opportunity. And to see that people like Simon and just the people on the show hit that golden buzzer is just, I legitimately, I almost cry every time, because I just find like that is so beautiful to me. And to see someone's day completely get made and life get made in some ways, you know, like you can't take that away from someone, a dream, a gift, and to be able to make people's dreams come true and make people's like change people's life with just a simple act, is beautiful to me. So to go back to MrBeast, he gives a lot of his money away. He's started to do, I've noticed this like swing in a lot of his videos now. He wants to give his money to more like strangers and people he doesn't know, but so much of what he's built so far has been, he gives it to his friends and the people that are like his friends' family that also work for him, right? Like his friends work for him. They're like his close group of people. They edit the videos. They do all these things. They're just funny, stupid videos sometimes. But it's just going to them. But people love it. And he's got millions of hits and views and followers and subscribers or whatever. And I think it's really fascinating that it's not that he's making a huge difference in a lot of people's lives, like big, by giving money. It's like he's giving money to just his friends. And also like my name, and that's always been something of like, well, what do you call it? You know, like again, words have power, and like names and the way you brand things. And so MrBeast, it's like, well, if MrBeast can have all this and with a name like MrBeast, then Crazy Face Uno it is. So that was an inspiration in some ways. Like it's really shaped kind of where my brain went. But yeah, I really want to like have the financial capacity to look at, you know, there's been a couple different, you know, people that I've had on, Thomas More, who is trying to climb the 7 summits of the world. He's accomplished 3 of those. I want to be a sponsor for him. I want to be a financial sponsor. I want to allow him, if he accomplishes this goal, he'll be only the second Black American to ever climb all 7 summits in the world. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's awesome. That's a cause that's worthy of, you know, investing into and helping out. Changing people's perspective with, you know, the border and the issue that's going on the border with immigrants and migrants and asylum seekers. And I have a friend named Jonathan Moya. He's got a cause and an organization he created called Border Perspective. And I want to be able to invest into him. and help, even if it's like, I don't know. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to look at a cause similar to Invisible Children, how we were able to quickly mobilize within, 6 months to a year to affect the most needed issue with the cause, with the LRA. I think that's beautiful. And I want to do that, but on a broader scale of like, hey, Jonathan, you're financially supporting yourself. You're flying to Texas. You're flying to these different places to help run this organization. And that's a financial burden to you. Let me take some of that off of you. But it also takes it off the books as a nonprofit, and it helps in so many different ways. So I'm rambling now, but that's kind of like the thing that I really care about and I love, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it feels amazing to be a fly on the wall when you see, somebody melt with the light. And for every reality show that's out there that, like, exists to tear people down, there's just as many, programs out there that exist to elevate people and exist to, like, catch that moment of someone's dream coming true on screen. Like,
yeah,
it's very, very satisfying for the person watching, even though they themselves are not benefiting from, the money or the new car or the whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think that that's a great opportunity for anyone who's making media to capitalize on that. I've been disappointed. There's been several organizations over the years that have tried to. So in the journalistic world, they say if it bleeds, it leads, right? So when you watch the news,
yeah,
about whatever horror is going on. And, there's been different organizations that have been like, well, we're only going to tell good news, and they all fizzle up. So it's like, well, I think that telling stories in that way isn't, for some reason, it isn't hitting people in an entertaining and compelling way, but helping people's dreams come true. For some reason, people love to watch that, and they love to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I hear you, like, I don't like I think it's kind of gross, the, like, if it bleeds, it leads kind of idea personally. Yeah. But, and I mean, one of the real focuses in something, this is unfolding organically as well. And it's like, as things go, it's grabbing onto things. It started off like, oh, I want to make these like funny videos or this stuff like MrBeast. That's where I was going with this. And it's filtered into like, no, I want to tell stories. I want to tell people's stories. Everybody has a story, and everybody's story matters. And so there's so many different ways you can do that. The podcast is the beginning. This is not what I intended CrazyFaceUno to be completely honest. This was supposed to be just a little side product, a way to create content and something fun on the side. And it's turned into the main thing. And that's cool. I'm totally fine with that. And if that's the way it is forever, that's totally cool too. But I just think that people's stories are important, and I think that as we listen and as we hear other people's stories, it provides this inspiration to us in a pathway in some ways of like, man, that person had it good their entire life, and yet it was still hard for them, and that's okay. Or, man, that person had a rough start and they found their way. That's cool. Or that person had a rough start and they're still figuring it out, and that's okay. But just giving people permission to be okay with who they are and where they are, and just to know that their story matters.
Yeah, I love that.
So I'm going to stop rambling for a little while, and let's talk more about you.
Well, now I have to go watch MrBeast. I'm so upset that I didn't know who he was.
Yeah. Awesome. It's the same. Have you heard of, what is it, Yes Theory?
Yes Theory?
Yeah, you got to write that one down too. That's another one. They're pretty good too. Similar concept, but it's like making people's dreams, but they do a bunch of different cool stuff as well. I really like them as well. But it's like the, what's the older one? I can't remember. Carl brought it up on his podcast. But anyway, yeah, those two are really interesting and doing some interesting things, and kind of, make me think. I say inspiration because it's just, they make me think about what's possible, and how I can do it different, and how I can do it my own way. but kind of creating this like framework in which to like, it's like a blueprint in some ways. It's like the skeleton, but I get to put the meat on it, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And make it what I want.
Yeah, and I mean, this proves the model that, like, you can build a YouTube or a Twitch or an Instagram or, I don't know, a TikTok presence through positivity. My favorite, personally, is Kitten Lady. I don't know if you know her.
I don't, but I'm writing that down.
And she's great. So she takes in these, like, super high-risk kittens that are about to be euthanized. She nurses them back to health, and she teaches her viewers how they can do the same. And so you get to watch, of course, I mean, the content is so cute. Mm-hmm. You get to watch these little kittens go from death's doorstep to being, like, healthy, thriving little kittens to then get adopted, and you can follow them on Instagram as they transition into someone's home. But, yeah, I mean, there's little pockets of that, you know, all across these media platforms, and it makes me so happy when, you know, someone blows up for doing something good and something that the viewers get really excited about.
Yeah, and there's, like you've said, you mentioned it a couple times now, like, there's just so much shit out there, and that's honestly, I hate the news, I hate social media, and a lot of that is really, not social media, I mean, just mainstream media, sorry. I hate those things because they've just become money-hungry, clickbaity garbage, and there's just, you don't hear positive things very often, and when you do, it's even got its own, like, little gross little spin sometimes, and I don't know, it just makes me sick. I hate it. And yeah, positive storytelling, and if that's what, I don't know, I love that. I love the positivity when people get recognized for good things. And I've talked about it on here too. One thing that I've really been trying to do and challenging myself is when you see someone doing good, doing something that, you know, just out in the community, like you're at the grocery store and somebody picks up a can or puts it back on the shelf or whatever. It's like, hey, thank you for doing that. You know, recognizing like, hey, I saw that. I see you, you know, and thank you. It doesn't have to be these big things. That's making a difference. That's doing good. Just saying thank you. And it's like recognizing somebody that's doing that as well. And I think it's there's just such simple ways that you can make a huge impact in the world. Whether it's wearing a dress through the month of December and, you know, and raising awareness for something that's affecting and allowing people protection and freedom to millions, you know, just like the mission statement.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think people can pick up on that tone too. Like, this might not be a really formulated thought, but this morning before I hopped on the call with you, I went to Home Depot and I bought 44 pavers, and they were 17 pounds each, right? Mm-hmm. So I loaded up this cart, I mean, just overflowing to the brim with rocks, basically. And I was just, like, struggling through Home Depot, and then I had to, like, load them into my trunk. And there were 3 different people who approached me and offered to help, which was nice. Yeah. But I could tell that the first 2 wanted something from me. The first one was someone who was he was looking for work. So he would have helped me load my trunk, but then I would have needed to pay him to do it. Yeah. And then the second person was like kind of hit on me. And I was like, no, like, I can do this. I can fill this up. Right. And then the third person was great, but he came along as I was, like, loading my last 2 papers.
You're like, thanks.
But he just came up. Yeah, he came up with an authenticity, and he was making a joke of, like, oh, I wish I would have seen you earlier. I could have helped. But, like, people can tell. Like, sometimes when you're being, when you're trying to be helpful, quote-unquote helpful, it's coming from a place of, like, I want to get something out of this. Right. And then other times it comes from a place of, no, I really want to help you. It looks like you're going through something sweaty or something, something hard. So, yeah, I think it's all about, you know, doing that with the right heart. Yeah. When you offer to help.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's totally, totally true. And I've even noticed, like, man, you know how we do, I don't know about you. For me, like, I had a great I had great parents that taught me great values and as a man, just as a human being, you know. And one thing was always like, hold the door open for people. Like, it's simple, and I think everybody can do that. But it's funny because we do this little thing. I caught myself Friday, actually. I caught myself, and I stopped, and I went ahead and did it. But I kind of looked over my shoulder because there was this lady walking behind me. I was like, well, how far is she? You know? And it's like we do it. We're like, well, if she's a certain distance away, then I'll just go in. And it's almost to a point to like avoid awkwardness, which I think is like interesting. Like socially, it's interesting. But like also, why? Who cares? So I kind of caught myself. She was in that like gray area, you know? And I was like, just hold the door open. Who cares? Like, you're not in a hurry, you know? And I held the door open, and she was like, oh, go ahead. It's fine. I was like, no, it's fine. Like, I'm not in any hurry. And she's like, I'm not either. And I was like, yep, no worries. Like, you do you. And I think it's just simple things like that. I've really been trying to be conscious of like my actions and why I'm doing it, and those little things, you know. It's the simple things of like, well, if she was like 3 more steps further back, you know, maybe I wouldn't have done it. But why? That's so silly. Like, if I'm not in a hurry, I have the time, I have the things, you know, I have the ability to do it. Why not just do it? It's okay. And I think that, you know, through this, sometimes I do seek out those things a little bit more, but with great intentions. Like, it's not something that I feel like it's without, you know, good intention. It's just that I'm more conscious of it. I'm more awake and have my eyes open to opportunities to be like, this is a place where it wouldn't normally be a thing that I would want to do. But I think that the more you do those things, it's like practicing, you know, the more you do those things, the more they just become part of who you are and part of your life. It's the getting raised with values, you know. Well, I was raised that way. And why, when you say you're raised that way, it's like, I learned to do this, you know, it's a learned thing. Or I learned how to treat people with kindness and treat people like I would want to be treated, that golden rule, you know?
Yeah, you're convicting me. I got to be a little bit more generous in my door holding.
Yeah, there you go. I know it sounds so silly sometimes, but I think it's just those simple things. I don't think that I've purposefully left do good and make a difference. You know, I've had some social pressure from, you know, friends and people I know of like, well, what does that even mean? Like, what does it mean to do good? I'm like, I challenge you with, you know exactly what it means to not do good and to not make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, when you like, you have that little self-conscious thing where you're like, that wasn't, I could have been better. You know, I could have done that differently. So like, why limit yourself to what that means when it can be so broad and open, and it can be as simple as holding a door open or simple as saying a thank you.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, I'm going to switch gears here, Talitha. You know what? No, I'm actually going to say this because I wrote this down. I mentioned it that I think you're crushing it right now. And I think this conversation, it really fits more to this question. I think as a human being, as a human, you are successful and you are crushing it, like I said. And I think that that's awesome.
You make me cry.
I really do.
I don't feel successful, but thank you.
I hear you. It's really crazy how perspective, you know, outside perspective, like I've continually gotten this, like, it would be an honor to be on the podcast. And for me, it's like, thank you. Like, you're doing me a favor in some ways. Like, I feel so grateful to have you, Talitha, and have Bethany, and you guys you have time, but you're busy people, you know, like, I get it. Like, life is busy. For you to sit down for an hour and a half and catch up with me after 10 years. And like, it's not like we're like the closest friends, Talitha. Like, we're close, you know, you reached out to me when you were in Minneapolis, and, you know, we're friends. I call you a friend, but like, I'm not texting you, you know, every other week or every month or every 6 months and being like, hey, how's life? What are you doing? You know? But I see you as a very successful person, human being. With that, and I want to say this I asked my wife how I can ask this question, because I want to know what it means to you as a woman to be crushing it and to be as successful as you are? I think you answered a little bit. I think it's a little telling, you saying like, I don't think I'm successful, but you are. And I think that it's really cool for you to be a leader to women in the world, to give back, to do good, and to have the heart that you have and have this leadership position. But I don't mean this in like, oh, it's cute, Talitha, like you're a woman, like good job, you know, like I genuinely, like, I think it's awesome. And like, what does it mean to be a woman and like killing it and crushing it in this world?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I believe in the Enneagram or not, but I come across pretty strongly as an achiever. So that's a 3.
Okay.
I think.
I still want to take this daggone
probably
thing.
like there's probably an Enneagram expert out there who's like, no, that's wrong. But I mean, like, that there are certain people who are just hardwired to be like constantly striving for more, constantly, you know, being like, for example, if I'm on vacation, I struggle with not planning my next vacation while I'm on vacation. So, I mean, I think that drive helps, you know, propel things forward. And, you know, I think it's helped bring incredible things into my life while simultaneously making me feel like it's never enough.
Yeah.
But, you know, for me, it really, I think it comes down to my mom. Like, so she worked my entire childhood, and she is just like grinds at life, and I just am so proud of the things she's accomplished. You know, currently she works as a librarian in rural Arizona, and like literally this town, the library is all they've got. They've got like McDonald's and the library, and a lot of people don't have internet access, and so she just like, she's this beacon of community in this town, and she's really making a difference. And she's been involved with things like that her whole life, as long as I've been alive. Yeah. And my dad has as well. But like, I do think that I really don't like the notion that like, if you are like, the only way to be a good mom is to be a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. And that like, if your kids are in daycare because you as a mom, you're working, you know, your kids are somehow getting less of you. I think that there's 2 beautiful ways to raise your children, one being at home with them and one working. Yeah. But I really do think that they are both really, really good. And I'm so grateful that my mom worked so hard when I was growing up. I'm so grateful that I was in daycare, and that I, you know, sometimes was like, I wish I could spend more time with my mom. Because that showed me, and I believe in my heart, it's just incredibly true to me that, like, you know, as a woman, you can do good in the world. I saw it firsthand. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's part of what guides me, and probably the way I'll raise my children. I mean, who knows? But that's she was great. She really modeled that for me.
Yeah. I think that's true. I mean, both ways, you know, male, female, whatever gender that you know, whatever you subscribe to and call yourself. But I think that that's really true. I've thrown around the idea or the theory of like, man, you're more likely to go into a field that your parents are in, just because you have that framework and that, like, you know, again, kind of like we were talking about with MrBeast or these different like things, like you've got this framework of which to operate, and you can kind of see that like foundation, and there's like a baseline knowledge that you have that kind of like sets you up for like succeeding, I guess, at that, or being quote good, or, you know, at that. Not that it's like what you want to do, but it's easier. And I think sometimes as people, as human beings, we just want that easier path, and not that, like, again, like, not that what you were saying is that your mom was a hard worker, so that's the example that you had of like working hard, and so were my family. You know, my mom and my dad, they still are, they work hard, you know. They're not millionaires, they're not like successful in the financial world like, you know, you might aspire to be, or some people aspire to be, but man, they're rich in life, and they've shown me a path of like, man, you just work hard and you get after it, and that's part of life. Something my dad taught me at a young age. I remember him saying like, hey, you might not be the best out there on the field. You know, I've always been involved in sports and I love sports, but don't let anybody ever outwork you. You know, like you work hard. And I think that's a really core value of who I am. And yeah, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's, you know, it's something I do really try, and I want to have, you know, I want to have a very diverse group of people on this podcast, because everybody's different, you know, and having successful women like yourself and just sharing that, and like what that model, you know, you're a model to other people, whether you see it or whether you believe it or not, like you really are. And everybody, I think, that in this world is a model. We share so much with people and we don't realize it. It's something that's really kind of slapped me in the face over the last several months, and of like just perspective. Like I have no idea what people's perspective of me are. And I care a lot about what people think about me, and that's a problem. And I'm really trying to let go of that and challenge myself. As a matter of fact, and I'll post a picture later this week, but I have a like handlebar mustache right now that is it is very.
You're doing November a little bit early, huh?
Yeah. It's very loud. It's very there. It fits well with the name CrazyFaceUno or Crazy Face. But I'm super self-conscious about it. I'm super uncomfortable about it, and I think that I've been talking to my wife. I'm like, I think that's even more reason for me to keep it around, because I struggle with it a lot, and I care a lot about just strangers, people that I don't even know, like what they think. I'm like very perceptive. We were walking in the grocery store last night, and some guy was like very strongly looking in my direction, and I just kept my head forward and kept walking, and I was like, oh man, like it just makes me uncomfortable. But I think it speaks to more of like I care about what other people think of me. And like a lot of people, I don't, that's a common thing, you know, but I don't want to have that crutch in some ways. I want to be able to be my own person, and authenticity and being genuine is very, very important to me. And I think that I am those, but I think that I'm always striving to be better at whatever I am and whatever I'm trying to do. And so it's just a way I'm challenging myself of an insecurity that I have. But I say that just because life's, you share a part of yourself, whether you're walking down the street, you know, whether I have a handlebar mustache or I'm clean cut, you know, whatever. And I share a part of myself with people, you know, whether you smile at someone, whether you say hi, or you look the other way, or you look down, or you're crying, or whatever. Everybody has a perception and a thought, and you get to share a little piece of yourself, or you get to come on the podcast and we have an hour and a half conversation. And, you know, sometimes I leave this podcast and I'm like on cloud nine. It's like this mountaintop experience, you know, or I'm like, man, that was so fun. Like, I love that. Most times it's like that. And I get to share a part of my soul and part of my heart and part of me, with you and with people I have on here, and with the listeners that are tuning in as well. And I think it's important.
Well, I mean, and literally anyone could set a trend, which is crazy. Like, first of all, like, have you seen the kombucha girl meme?
I don't think I have.
Or like, oh, it's great. But I mean, like, anyone could upload a funny video online and then set a trend. Even our friend Jason Russell with the Coney 2012 video, like, there's a GIF of his son kind of tapping his fingers that got lifted from that video, and it's like one of the most shared GIFs out there. So you just, like, you never know. You really could be a trendsetter. If you show up at Coachella, you might, you know, catch the eye of one of those trend-setting companies. They may take your picture, and then everyone will be copying the same mustache.
Yeah, man, I don't know if that's what I want, but yeah, I mean, I went and got my hair cut on Friday after I had kind of trimmed up my beard. I was just, you know, I don't know. Guys, if you're listening, if you're a guy out there, we've all done it. You've all probably grown some facial hair and played around with, like, as you trim it up, you're like, oh, look at that. And I was like, oh, it doesn't look too bad, actually. It's kind of fun. But I never really intended to keep it for very long, and I don't know, whatever. But my barber, she was like, she kind of like leaned down, and she's in a soft voice, she's like, I really like your mustache. She's like, sometimes they can come across as like porn starish, but she's like, yours is good. And most of my family still thinks it looks like porn starish, but whatever. Here we are.
Did you tell her that? Tell your family that the professional liked it.
Yeah, exactly. I need to tell them, but yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. So you've had been involved with a couple other organizations or groups. Do you mind telling us a little bit about those, or like kind of how you got involved with them as well?
Sure. Yeah. Well, of course, there's Invisible Children.
Yep.
I have to say, if you've listened to any of the other interviews with an Invisible Children person, they probably have like a very similar origin story to mine.
Yeah.
So it was just a beautiful community that came into my life when I was in my early 20s and just rocked my world.
Yeah.
So that was great. And even to this day, I credit Invisible Children with like opening every good door that has opened for me since.
Yeah.
And it's we were so sad when things kind of, it still exists, but, it used to be a large organization with 150 people working there at any given time, and now it's significantly smaller. And that was only in the U.S. I mean, I think there was 150 working in Uganda as well. But as people have moved on, it's actually gotten better because now we're able to trade ideas with each other, open doors for each other. So that's been a really beautiful community to be a part of. And then after Invisible Children, I was involved with the Giving Keys for just shy of 3 years. So the Giving Keys is a philanthropic jewelry company that, and other accessories. Our products were made just adjacent to Skid Row by people transitioning out of homelessness.
Yeah.
And so that was really fun. We got to elevate that brand into places like Nordstrom. You would see keys being photographed around the necks of very famous people. So that was a really, really beautiful community to be a part of. And I just loved learning how fashion worked. Because when we were at Invisible Children, we were, I would say we were quantity over quality as far as the way that we would invite people into joining us. We were just like, invite as many people as possible. And for some of them, they'll come along. The Giving Keys was really cool because it taught me that if you can refine the way that you present yourself as an organization, you can strategically get exactly the right people's attention. So, that was great. I did that for a few years, and that has translated specifically very well to Dressember. Yeah. And then I fostered kittens. That's been another kind of charitable thing.
Yeah, I remember seeing you do that on social media and stuff. What has that been like? You've always loved cats, though, right? Like, that's always been your thing.
Yeah, I love cats, but I'm not crazy. Like, I have one. I'm not, I just think they're great. But, to be honest, I was kind of going through a season of depression, and I was just kind of trying to piece together, what makes me happy? Like, let's just put those things in my life. And, I mean, there are monsters out there who don't think that kittens are cute, but most people would agree that kittens and puppies make them happy. So, I discovered that working from home, I was in a unique position to feed these little guys all night long, and they would grow up really fast and then go live in the homes. The vast majority of them were adopted by my friends. So, go to beautiful, good homes.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I'm not a huge animal rights person, so that was really cool to get my hands dirty with even though this isn't a human rights issue, it is a beautiful issue, and so it was really great to just get involved in the activism and the life-saving efforts. The thing about cats, oh man, I'm gonna get on a soapbox. The thing about
Go for it.
Is that they, if they're under 8 weeks of age, or maybe more like under 6 weeks of age, they need round the clock care. And when you drop them off at a shelter, the shelter is closed overnight. And so the shelter can't give them that round the clock care.
Right.
And so unless they can find someone to take them into their home, they'll euthanize them. So people are very concerned about, euthanization in shelters, but 50% of what they're euthanizing are kittens, which is like the thing so many people want. So it's like, oh, okay, like this is an extremely vulnerable group, but it's also like the funnest group.
Yeah.
I'm not dealing with like some, animal that's got this trauma that you have to like work through. It's this cute little kitten. So that's something else I've been involved with.
That's cool. Yeah. So like my dog, I think that's in some ways one of the reasons I'm so protective of him, and he's a American Bull Terrier, which is a pit bull breed. And he's a tripod. He got hit by a car in Texas, and he's a rescue, and so he lost his back right leg. And he's man, you talk about a breed that's so misunderstood, and similar. Like I just learned about kittens. I had no idea that was the case, But it's just crazy. I'm just so. It's not something I do like actively, like pit bulls, But I'm like very conscious about people have this. You walk down the street and people see this dog that has these pit bull features, and you just see them respond and react in different ways, which is really fascinating and interesting to me. And just being able to like burst their bubble and like dispel those stereotypes is really fun. And I don't know, he's the best. He's such a cuddly, lovey dude. He like came up to me today, and I like woke up and I like gave him a little kiss on his muzzle, and he like immediately like jumped on my face and was like gave me a couple kisses and like snuggled in next to me. It's just he's the cutest little guy. He's the best.
Yeah, they're great. I read last week that someone just spent $35,000 to clone their cat in China.
Whoa.
And they'll spend, if they want to clone their dog, it's $50,000. And I'm just like, there are so many animals like your sweet, pup that need a loving home, and you're over here spending, like a house down payment on. It's funny. People are funny when it comes to animals. People
are funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we'll wrap things up, Talitha. Is there anything you want to, talk about or say? You've got this platform, this small, but I call it mighty platform. I do want to push extra-life.org, and that's a way people can get involved with the Children's Miracle Network hospitals and the games and raising money through playing games, correct?
Yeah. And I'll just say that, if you as a listener are interested in peer-to-peer fundraising, you're interested in, I want to activate a lot of people to raise a small amount of money, find me on Twitter, Talitha Baker. Find me on Instagram, same thing, Talitha Baker. Like, hit me up because I am so passionate. Like, I care about these causes, but I really think the thing that I care the most about is just inviting people into the process of doing good, because it will change their lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I can help strategize for anything that you are dreaming about, like, hit me up. I'd love to talk. Yes, please. I would love that. Actually, I need that, if I'm completely honest and humble. Like, I need a lot of help. I wake up and, I spend my days working and trying to gain knowledge about different things and my subject. And, but it's really hard to know. And I have myself to bounce things off of through the day, and I feel lost a lot of days, and kind of the direction I'm going, and just trying to do the best I can every day. But I would love any help that you or people out there listening are willing to give. So, let's chat afterwards for sure. And I'll definitely tag you in, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, if that's cool, so people can connect with you, and we'll spread the message of what you're doing as well. Awesome. I love it. This was so fun. Really great to catch up. And I'm really grateful for anyone listening. I am excited for the journey that you're on as well. So keep surrounding yourself with these uplifting messages. It adds up.
Thank you, Talitha. I really appreciate that. Awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you listen this far, go check out our website. It's CrazyFaceUno.com. There's some mugs for sale. There's also a way for you to donate. I would greatly appreciate and love if you would buy a mug or donate to CrazyFaceUno and help us continue this process of creating something good and making a difference in the world. Thanks again for listening. We love you all out there. Peace!